Again, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough market for a lot of these altcoins, but everything we're covering today are very solid projects that have some really solid fundamentals. So
Yep.
that's something to keep in mind as we continue to go through these.
Welcome back to another episode of WAGB TV. Today we're going to be going through a couple charts that we want you guys to keep your eyes out for. We think there's some real potential when it comes to Morpho, AERO, and Hype, and we want to tell you guys why. As always, this isn't financial advice. Please make sure to do your own research. But Armada, why don't you take it away?
Yeah, definitely. Let's dig into the chart. So first and foremost, we're gonna hit hyperliquid here. So we've talked about this chart a few times over the past couple weeks. Haven't changed much as far as the charting, just so that we could kind of compare to what we were seeing a couple weeks ago. When we were taking a look at this, we talked about this trend line here, this uptrend that we saw, this orange trend. We saw ourselves hit that a couple times, and we did mention that if we were to go down and hit this again, right, that would likely be a breaking point for that uptrend, because we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, and this would have been the fifth hit. So the more hits on those trend lines that we get, the weaker they get, and the more likely they are to break once they're retested. So we did see that break pretty severely. What we also did see is a typical retrace to the scene of the crime here for it to continue its rollover. And then, of course, we had the big flush out on the 10th, where we actually came exactly into our level here. So the $31.82-ish, 83-ish cents. Obviously, if anyone had buy orders there, nice work. That's pretty awesome. You could have made a really quick trade there. Of course, the whole entire crypto market has kind of floated up to up slightly from there, but really kind of just flagged out from here. So from a long-term perspective, what we're really looking at here is we need to kind of break above this range that we've started to create over the last couple days here. So just to zoom in a bit more here, we've essentially created a little bit of a range here. So to get a little bit more confident, we want to break above and close above really this $42.47 level on Hype. And of course, the additional support is going to continue to be this yellow line until proven otherwise. If we're to break down further from there, the next level we would expect a little bit of a bounce would be right in this area. So $28.29 would kind of be that next area that we'd be looking to from this. So really what we want to do is what we're seeing is essentially a breakdown, a retest the scene of the crime, further rollover, and then a bear flag. So what we really need to do is get out of this bear flag to find some upside here moving forward. And of course, like any chart that we go over today, that's going to depend mostly on what Bitcoin does over the next coming days and weeks. So Evan, any thoughts on Hype or any of the fundamentals going on there or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the only thing I wanted to call out was really that candle from yesterday. So Hype bumped about 10%, and that was really based off of the listing on Robinhood. So that was announced and made available yesterday. So pretty exciting stuff that at least on another platform you're able to buy Hype, and I think maybe that's a catalyst for some movement upwards. We've definitely seen Robinhood be a big place for tokens like Pepe and other meme coins that have been hugely successful on Robinhood. So, real potential there if Hype were to be able to hop on that train.
Yeah, definitely. Keep your eyes out for this one. I mean, it's a really interesting one. They have good revenue, right? Which you really don't see that in the crypto space, right?
Yeah.
So it's something to definitely keep an eye on. It's something that we're watching constantly. So let's roll over to Aerodrome here. I know this is a fan favorite of the channel. So we've got this annotated pretty nicely, right? We review this as much as possible when we see kind of changes. We're seeing really a similar pattern here as we saw with Hype, right? Clearly way off of our all-time highs, which we totally understand that. We had a nice solid uptrend that started to form in April of this year. Again, same concept, right? We hit that a couple times, and then on this last time we actually broke through, and that was on the big liquidation day that we actually covered last week as well. So we did see that break through, and then guess what? We came back up, retested that scene of the crime right there of that trend line, rolled back over. So similar story here. It looks like we're forming a little bit of a bear flag. We came right into our support that we had drawn off actually quite perfectly. Obviously, we dropped below it, but it didn't actually close below that. So that for now is bullish until proven otherwise. It's going to be our support level at about 74 and a half cents. And so that's really the line that we're looking at. Again, we are bear flagging, so same concept here. What we really want to do is first and foremost get above this line right here, this downward sloping trend line. We need to get above that. And then the real test is going to be right here, getting up and above here and closing above that 96-ish cent level. So that's what we need to look at in order to continue to be bullish on this. Of course, the thought process is this is support until proven otherwise, but if this is a bear flag, we could see some more downside. The next big support level is going to be this 48-ish to 49 cent level. What we might see a little bounce on in the meantime would be this area. So this 66.5 cent area is an area that we could see a little bit of a bounce here, but really, really interesting stuff. I know part of this came right into the 618 Fibonacci level as well. Obviously, our support was just slightly lower than that. So interesting to see how those are kind of coinciding as well. So again, that's kind of what the look is on all charts, and Bitcoin's going to hopefully help float all these up over the short term and obviously the long term. But Evan, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, hopefully this uptrend continues. I think two big call outs here, kind of continued call outs, is that the emissions within the Aerodrome protocol are continuing to drop. You can see this in charts on Dune, but we're seeing less and less emissions of the AERO token, which is good and bad. It's good for the token price where you're seeing less downward pressure with inflation. The bad side is that you want to be able to foster a healthy environment where liquidity providers and stakers and everybody else can get their funds, but that kind of affects liquidity providers. So one, emissions going down. Two, Aerodrome has retaken its lead as the top decentralized exchange on Base. So for a little while there, Uniswap was the leader on Base, but Aerodrome has since retaken as number one, and I believe is outpacing them by about 100 million in TVL. So nice little uptick from Aerodrome there.
Again, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough market for a lot of these altcoins, but everything we're covering today are very solid projects that have some really solid fundamentals. So
Yep.
that's something to keep in mind as we continue to go through these. Obviously, the charts don't look the best, but if you're a long-term investor and have a long-term mindset on some of these, it's something to obviously consider here. So last but not least, we have Morpho. We've covered this a few times. As you can see, this was annotated quite a bit back. We did see a head and shoulders here that we were actually tracking. We broke down from the head and shoulders, and then, of course, just like these others, we actually came up, retested the scene of the crime here, and then we actually saw it go below full confirmation of that. So typically, if you take kind of the top of the head to the neckline, you can actually see exactly where this is going to play out to. We saw it come to play out right around this area. We actually sunk below that, which was pretty insane to see on that big flush out. But since then, have obviously recovered from that. So if you bought at one of these support zones, or if you bought at the validation level or of the completion for the head and shoulders, you're actually doing quite well, right? I mean, even from
Yep.
our support level that we did here, I mean, you're up 85% in a matter of days. So same kind of concept. We broke down. We're really seeing, let's get rid of this. Really what you're seeing is a breakdown from this upward trend line, the retests, and really just it looks like an exaggerated bear flag at this point. So what we need to do is continue to move up and retest this this next resistance, 245, to feel confident that it's no longer forming and invalidate that bear flag. So same kind of concept on all these charts. It was a breakdown, retrace, formation of a bear flag. So the hope that we have as bullish folks is that we can actually get out of those bear flags and invalidate them for those moves higher.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think a big announcement here for Morpho was actually the first protocol to hit 2 billion in TVL on Base. So not necessarily something that's going to rock the charts and send it upwards, but 2 bill in TVL is huge and kind of interesting. So I think maybe a month ago we had a Morpho episode where we were saying that we're going to see more and more growth in of TVL, and maybe even Base take the number one focus for Morpho. So right now the Ethereum TVL for Morpho sits at 4 billion. Base is at 2 billion. So we're continuing to see the base TVL catch up or get even closer and closer to Ethereum, or the Ethereum TVL. Yeah.
How about that? That's insane.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Again, good fundamentals on all three of these projects. It's just there might be some short term pain
Yeah.
associated with it until we see what Bitcoin can go and do for us.
Yeah. It seems like we're kind of in this lull at the moment where we're not getting a ton of news, and hopefully are just going to get a leg up somewhere in the next few months, or maybe even before the end of the year. But as always, if you guys like this content, feel free to like, comment, subscribe. We'd love to hear your thoughts on these tokens, these charts, and where you think things are going. As a reminder, this isn't financial advice. We're sharing this just to give you guys our thoughts and for educational purposes only. But as always, we'll catch you next week. Wagme.